RUSD Board of Trustees meeting. Before we begin, we were in closed session. No determinations were made. Didn't sound like your board was working hard, but they were. Just a lot of discussion. Also, if you'd like to comment on any items, whether it's in the public comment section or if you'd like to comment on a certain agenda item, right back there where that gentleman's standing, there's cards, and Miss Beth is back there to help you, Miss Martin. Fill out the card, and we'll call on you at that time, all right? But right now, we're going to begin our session by a young person named Jason McKee, who is from Castleview Elementary School, and Jason's a fifth grader. We're going to learn a bit more about him in a moment, but Jason will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Jason, it's your show. Pull the mic down.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. You know, in the trustee area, Mrs. Locke Dawson is your trustee, so I'm going to ask her to turn it over to her now to introduce you and talk a little bit about you and ask you a few questions.
Well, good evening, Jason. Thank you for coming down tonight and leading us in the pledge. I understand you're a fifth grader at Castleview, and I hear that you like to play and watch both, so I'm not sure what you do more of, but hockey, running, rollerblading with your dog, just general fitness and exercise. Do you do all that? Do you watch yourself run with your dog? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Rollerblade with your dog. Doesn't he pull you over?
Well,
that's kind of tricky. I know, I've done it. I understand you are also, on top of all those things, an outstanding scholar and a role model of character, and others look up to you. And you're hoping to become a professional hockey player.
yes.
Right? And I hope you have good dental insurance for that. Or a college professor someday. So what would you like to study, and what would you like to teach in college?
History.
Oh, man after my own heart. Okay, Jason, well, if you would like to stand there, I have a certificate for you. And
Are your parents here tonight, Jason?
My grandfather.
Well, why don't you introduce your grandfather to us?
Right there. His name is David O'Keefe.
David, Grandpa.
come on down, David. Come on, we'll get your picture.
Well, here, I'll continue filming for you. Good, all
And
right.
you can turn around. Jason, let me shake your hand. Thank you. You can take this.
Well, we were saying Pledge of Allegiance. You might have noticed a large fellow named Gregory Thomas up there next to the flag, and he has some wonderful young people for us to meet tonight and perform. Mr. Thomas, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you for having us this evening. And we brought a few of our chamber singers tonight. There's about 38 of them with us tonight. You guys kind of wave. It's a very energetic group. A very energetic group. But before we start, we're going to bring two selections. I wanted to acknowledge our principal, Mr. Ayala, who's in the back there. You guys give us our assistant principal, Dr. Duncan. We're glad to have him. Over my time, we have two selections. One selection is a nice little song entitled One Wish. We wish for you peace. And our second selection, in case you did not know, today is the first day of Black History Month, and we'd like to bring a gospel number entitled Glory to God. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir.
Soloist, Marissa Espinosa.
If I had one gift I could give,
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you. If the ushers will come forward and take the offering now, we'll be fine. Thank you, Brother Greg. We'll let them. Let's give them one more hand with the leaving, folks. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right. I wonder if the president of the NAACP, Mrs. Woody Rucker-Hughes, is here tonight. Sister Woody? That's a good warm-up for you, I think. President Woody Rucker-Hughes is going to talk tonight about this being Black History Month and sharing information about African American history in Riverside Unified School District. Welcome, Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Chairman Hunt, immediate past Chair Olive, distinguished members of the board and officers, as well as Dr. Hanson and members of his cabinet here assembled. Thank you for allowing time for this presentation about why we should celebrate Black History Month. I'd like to begin with a slide presentation entitled 5 Reasons Why We Should Celebrate Black History Month. Then, if time permits, I have a few reflections regarding the efforts to date as to what we are doing here in Riverside Unified to make sure that our students honor those who helped to make America great. If you remember, 1 year ago, I stood before you, and I'm happy to say that we have begun the effort and will continue. So if I may, and I have a clicker over there because I can't do both. February 1 marks the beginning of Black History Month. Each year, United States citizens set aside the month of February to focus the historical hindsight on the particular contributions that people of African descent have made to this country. Now, in the beginning, Black History Month, which is also called African American History Month, was originally known as Negro History Month. This week began in 1926, and the Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson is credited with the development of this week. Dr. Woodson purposely had the week coincide with the birth dates of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, 2 central figures in the African American history. In the 1976, well, there's Carter G. Woodson, Dr. Woodson, and some of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Thank you. In 1976, the bicentennial of the United States, President Gerald R. Ford expanded Black History Week into a full month. And you'll see his quote that says, "Our country needs to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history." So as we look at 5 reasons, I'll begin with reason number 1. By celebrating Black History Month, it allows us to pause and remember the stories so that we can commemorate the achievements of Black Americans. You can continue there. There's an African saying, proverb that says that a man or woman without knowledge of himself is like a tree without roots. It cannot grow. Next. By celebrating Black History Month, it helps us to be better stewards of the privileges we've gained. You know, we often say that if we don't tell our story to the next generation as well as ourselves, we will forget them. And we must not take for granted the rights that many people before us sweated, bled, and died to secure. Number 3, by celebrating Black History Month, it provides an opportunity to highlight the best of Black history and culture. We applaud the efforts Phyllis Wheatley, let's say, the first African-American poet and the first African-American female to publish a book, or Madam C.J. Walker, the first African-American self-made millionaire. Numerous kings and queens of Africa, of course, those who have graduated and have become from historically black colleges, and are now many of our doctors and lawyers and et cetera. We also celebrate someone many didn't know about, Dr. Mark Dean, instrumental in the invention of the personal computer. He holds 3 of IBM's original 9 PC patents, and currently holds more than 20 total patents. Gabby Douglas. We saw her in the Olympics, the gymnast best known as being the first African American to win the 2012, Summer Olympics individual all-around event. She also won a team gold medal for the U.S. By winning the 2003 Australian Open, Serena Williams became the first African American to win the championship. Number 4, by celebrating Black History Month, it creates awareness. Black history is often lost in the midst of time. When we observe Black History Month, we give citizens of all races the opportunity to learn about a past and a people who also helped to make America great. And number 5, by celebrating Black History Month, it reminds us that Black history is truly American history. Black history, just like Latin, Asian, European, Native American history, belongs to us all. Black, white, men, women, young and old. We also need to view the contributions of African Americans in America as part of our collective conscience. So by sharing these contributions, it helps to join people of every race into the grand and diverse story of this nation. Some of the books that can be of great help when you're thinking in terms of sharing. Thank you. My clicker. America's greatness is a testament to the generations of courageous individuals who, in the face of uncomfortable truths, accepted that the work of perfecting our nation was unending and strived to expand the reach of freedom for all. For too long, our most basic liberties had been denied to African Americans, and during the month of February, Black History Month, time should be set aside to pay tribute to the countless good-hearted people along the Underground Railroad, aboard a bus in Alabama, or all across our country who stood up and set in to help right the wrongs of our past and extend the promise of America to us all. For generations, the story of the African American progress has been shaped by the beliefs that change was and is always possible, and a brighter future can lie ahead. Today we stand on the shoulders of courageous individuals who endured the thumps of billy clubs, the blasts of fire hoses, and the pain of watching dreams be deferred and denied. We should also stand poised to honor those who have come before us, and by investing in our youth and our young adults, and by doing all that we can to ensure every student, black, brown, white, and yellow, within RUSD can reach their full potential. Like the countless quiet heroes who worked and bled far from the public eye, we know that enough effort, empathy, and perseverance, people who love this country can and will make a change for the better. Now, I said that 1 year ago, I came before this board. And I asked at that time that a year from now, that we would not only celebrate the month of February, that we would encourage the schools to do their part. I liken the words I'm going to say now. If I were to take a picture of all of us, and right now, and then I'd pass that picture around, who would you be looking for in that picture? Who would you be looking for? Dr. Farouk? It's of all of us, but who would you look for? Yourself. And if you're not in it, the picture is nice, but it certainly could have been better. Think in terms of that as we're thinking about the celebration of the contributions of Black Americans to America, to Riverside. The fact is that this is an opportunity and a time for us to share with others the contributions. I close thanking Superintendent Hanson, your hardworking cabinet, you, the members of this board, who heeded my request to do more in recognizing the all too important month of February. I applaud the unending work done on behalf of our students and parents, especially the establishment of the Plus Council, shepherded by Dr. Kaisha Holmes and Ms. Anu Menon. I salute all of the schools, including today was the first day for Madison Elementary School. And I got a copy of Mr. McComb's note to Kaisha. They had their Black History Month assembly today. And the kids said, "We are more alike than we're different." That was repeated over and over again as Hardy Brown II helped for them to celebrate. And they went on to deal with artifacts and masks and community, different ways that we celebrate. So I salute him for doing that right on. Pachapa Elementary, Rivera Elementary, Kennedy Elementary, Highland, Emerson, Beatty, Alcott, Jefferson, Taft, and I know that's only the beginning. I salute University Heights. I know the high schools will come aboard as well. I salute, as I said, the Parent Summit that's coming up, because there will be African-centered workshops. And then most of all, I salute and I thank this board for stepping out of your comfort box and making sure that people, parents and yourselves, will take that trek to freedom in regards to the Underground Railroad this summer. These footsteps to freedom, they call it. When you get to Ohio, I want you to especially, I hope you have a lot of time in that museum right there on the Kentucky River. You will be mesmerized by what you see. I applaud all of the work done. I can say that we've only just begun, but we've come a long way from where we started. I thank you all for heeding the call. I'm confident that Riverside Unified School District and its able leadership will continue to do its part in the unending journey towards a more perfect and equal America. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions for Mrs. Hughes? No? I think we're good, Woody, but I think we are more alike than we are different. But Dr. Farouk, yes.
I just wanted to thank you again for all of your efforts in the community. It was a pleasure to be at your NAACP back in school yesterday and see the confidence and the excitement for those kids.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Farouk. And those young people, that's the Youth and College Division that every NAACP should have. And if they satisfy, as I shared yesterday, my one wish, I want them to learn forensics. I want them to be able to come before a board such as you and to be able to speak with elegance and having something to say. I will tell them, because it never fails me, as many times as I speak, I'm still nervous when you get up before the group.
Mr. Hunt, I had a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's funny you should say that, Ms. Rucker-Hughes, because what I was going to tell the crowd was, do not ever follow Woody at any kind of speaking engagement, because
no.
she will shame you, and it is embarrassing to get up behind her. So, but I do want to thank you, Woody. You always have such a gracious way about you, and I love how you bring messages with a very positive and forward-looking way. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Hanson, I don't want to hear again that folks are worried when they come up here if we ask them questions, because our most learned member got stumped by Woody when she asked him a direct question. So we're more alike than we are different. So let's hear it from the students now. This is why we're all here tonight, and why we're here, why we exist, is for student achievement. So our high school representatives tonight, we're going to start with Alexander Silva from Ramona High School. Alexander? How about them Rams?
Good evening, President Hunt, Dr. Hanson, and members of the board. My name is Alexander Silva, and I'm the school board representative for Ramona High School. Today, I'd like to address our LCAP goal number 1 in the regard of our tutoring center. So at Ramona, we have a tutoring center at our library. It's located there because it's ease of access to all the resources that we have, and also if students have any device problems, they're able to contact the representative that will be able to assist us. And in the tutoring center, we help students with various different classes in a variety of different ways. So we'll sit down one-on-one individually with them and assist them with different things. And we've been incorporating the HERO system to help keep track of their attendance and just make sure that they're consistently coming to the tutoring center. And for students who have been consistently attending, their grades have been seen as improving, and especially this is noted within our English second language learners. However, we are attempting to get more students to visit the help center, and steadily in recent weeks, the attendance has been decreasing, and we've been attempting to contact the students and remind them that this resource is available and it's not a punishment. Instead, it's just there to benefit them and help them improve in their grades overall academically. And currently, we are continuously keeping contact with their parents and trying to just reach out and let them know that we are available, and we're trying to find new ways to incentivize this and let the students know that it's better to participate than to abstain from. Secondly, in Goal 2, we're trying to breach the classroom and real world with different connections. So tomorrow on February 2nd, students from the regular and AP government classes will be visiting the Riverside Courthouse and Historic Courthouse and the Center for Social Justice and Civil Liberties. This field trip is trying to breach the gap between the real world and our curriculum. So we're attempting to establish real life connections between everyday things and what we're learning in our curriculum. And this is allowing us to also establish applications for real life within a local setting. And additionally, students will be able to connect their lessons with things that affect them in everyday life, and will create a more in-depth learning. And on the note of college acceptances and readiness, for seniors, this time of the year is often full of preparing for college and discovering what lays ahead of them in the future. Select students such as Dulce Nance and Kieran Silva were already accepted into their dream schools. And they're both accredited their acceptances to the aid provided from Ramona through the AVID program and dedicated work of their counselor, Mr. Lim. Additionally, with the support of the Guidance Counseling Office, Ramona has been supporting the completion of the FAFSA through our campaign on campus that provides incentives for seniors to complete their FAFSA. However, many students have been seeking more opportunities to expand their curriculum. Many seniors would believe believe that they would be better prepared if they had a wider variety of options for AP classes to be available at Ramona. And thirdly, in Goal 3, we've been engaging in different activities and trying to allow students to have more opportunities to participate in different things in a local setting and something that is related more to their interests. So our boys golf team, for instance, was able to attend a PGA Farmers Open at the Torrey Pines Golf Course. And this is an opportunity that would not have been possible were it not for the LCAP funds. And tomorrow, on February 2nd, 55 girls will be attending the Women in Sport Conference, which is at the Grove Community Church. And this is sponsored by the Citrus Belt Athletic Association. And here the students will be able to listen and speak with different speakers, and these speakers will hopefully be able to help motivate and inspire them to continue to strive towards success. And we have various activities going on at Ramona, such as the freshman boys and girls soccer teams have been started and been performing very well. Our boys volleyball team is starting this year as well soon. And our midwinter dance was on January 30th at the Canyon Crest Country Club from 7 to 11. And we have attempted the band Monopoly world record. It was last week, and we're still trying to verify the world record and see if someone will be able to come and witness and verify it. And we have more things to incentivize perfect attendance and honor roll and things like that with our perfect attendance lunch and honor roll ice cream social. And our winter sports pep rally is this week, and we have various spirit days, such as the one Dr. Hansen observed today with my very colorful face. And 8th grade visitation will be on February 24th. Are there any questions or comments that I may be able to help address or answer?
Alexander, I have a question, just two. First of all, speaking of college acceptance, or I'm assuming by the good facial growth there, you're a senior.
Yes.
Okay, so just I was your age, I had a little wisp, so I'm jealous. But so where are you applying to?
I've applied to 18 different colleges. Yeah.
Which one? Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to list them all?
Yeah, well, we want to know.
Cal State, San Luis Obispo.
Well, not all of them. Who's accepted you? How's that?
I have not been accepted anywhere yet because all my colleges send out their acceptances / denials towards March and April, which is terrifying. But thank you.
And then you talked about if there was a wider variety of AP classes at Ramona. Can you go into a little bit of detail for the board about that, just to understand your thoughts?
From a personal experience, I understand that there are AP classes that are available at other schools, whereas at Ramona, I'm repeating myself. It wouldn't be a necessarily viable option due to our smaller interest in it. So, for instance, personally, I attempted to enroll in the AP physics class, but due to the smaller interest, we weren't able to run it because of the low numbers of people who were interested in it. So I believe in that regard, we are kind of limited in the way that we are able to enroll in different classes and expand our curriculum because we are limited in the way that the more advanced classes are. And I believe that's just my personal opinion because I was affected in that regard. And I believe I would be more prepared had I been able to take that class and actually enroll and learn from that curriculum.
Yeah, one of our challenges, of course, is Ramona and Arlington having smaller populations. We need to get more students to those campuses. But perhaps there's something, Dr. Hansen, we can look at in the future where people like young students like Alexander can perhaps take it remotely. If I'm just picking a school, if King has it, maybe they could go in like that. So thank you for that input. That's exactly what the board wants here. Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And next we have Sophia Bastista from Riverside STEM Academy. Welcome, Sophia.
Hi. Okay. So good evening, Mr. President Hunt, Dr. Hansen, and other members of the board. My name is Sophia Bautista, and I'm here representing the Riverside STEM Academy. Okay, so a lot of things have been going on campus since we last met in December. Last Saturday on January 30th, STEM had its second annual Midwinter, which was Gadsby Gala, and we had it at the UCR Alumni Center. And then ASB hosted an assembly to encourage attendance to the event, and then which actually was successful because last year we had about 115 students come, and this year we had about 135. So a week before midwinter was finals, and to help students be prepared, Link Crew hosted study sessions for the freshmen in which they put music on after school and then tutored them. Another good thing to mention is that our speech and debate team participated in a tournament last weekend at Stanford University, and we actually had one of our teams go on to semifinals. So our team is they're really good. They're actually 7th in the region right now. So in the fall, STEM is sending 2 students to Japan to participate in events from Tohoku University to expose them to other cultures and educate them on other countries and how they learn. And then 2 different groups are coming from Japan in the spring to STEM and are going to stay with our host families. So last year we had just 1 group, so this year we're having 2. Another big thing that is being discussed on campus is the students' ability to decide whether they want to graduate with a STEM certificate or STEM diploma, but both ensure that the student has completed a multi-year research project. And then regarding the arts, last year a couple of our students participated in a Charlie Brown play at North High School, and so the Reef Grant Foundation is actually hosting a gala, and a couple of the STEM kids are auditioning to perform there. We had our freshmen visit the Getty Center last week, and then as STEM improves its relationship with the Canyon Crest Town Center, more opportunities are possible. So tomorrow we actually have students going to meet with the author Cory Doctorow and ask questions about his book Little Brother. So in order to prepare juniors for college, which is quickly approaching, in February we have juniors visiting University of California, Los Angeles and California Institute of Technology. Also, to help with that, we have our counselor meet with every student and their parents about future courses they can take next year and then college plans. And then just another thing to mention is that we now have a makerspace, which is just STEM providing tools and resources for students to be able to create and build their ideas. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Excellent. Excellent, Sophia.
Question.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Alvey.
Where's your where is the makerspace on school campus?
So we actually have an engineering class, and then a whole bunch of tools were put in that classroom last month maybe. So yeah.
Great. That's great.
So you're going to Caltech and UCLA is what you're looking at. No easy schools? No? not going to South Los Angeles or anything? No. No, I'm kidding. That's, Mrs. Alvey went to USC. I went to UCLA. So every chance I get, I bring it up.
Yes, he does.
But Sophia, thank you. And how are things overall? Are you working out? I mean, you got a lot of kids crammed that little place.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Yeah, it's going pretty well. We're kind of fighting a little bit more than usual because we had just had finals, but it's going well.
Well, good to hear you're normal kids. You're bright and normal. That's great. Thanks, Sophia, for being here. We'll see you again. And from John W. North High School, Nache Vincent. Bless your heart.
Well, you're going to have to explain that.
How'd I do on the name?
Better.
Well, I got a whole year, so.
Okay, well,
Hold the mic up a little bit, Ms. Wilson. There you go.
okay. Good evening, President Hunt, Dr. Hanson, and other members of the board. My name is Necha Vincent, and I'm reporting from John W. North High School. So this time we'd like to take a look at our LCAP goals over at John W. North and just update you guys on how that's going for us. So in terms of Goal 1, to provide high-quality teaching and learning environments for students, we have recently been introduced to a program known as Learnerator, and it's an online resource for students. This program helps students with higher-level math and sciences, and it also provides help for ACT and SAT, which is very helpful for students. So this is a form of personalized learning, and it's another way that technology is being implemented over at our campus. Also, we have something known as Husky Help, and it's a form of tutoring on campus, and this targets English learners. And then a few weeks ago, we had finals, and for finals, we had something known as Final Exam Cram on January 15th, 19th, and 20th. And one of our leadership groups on campus hosted this event, and we had avid tutors help students in various areas, as well as a tutoring group known as AmeriCorps. And then in terms of LCAP goal number 2, preparing students for college, career, and world readiness upon graduation. So this year we have something known as the junior trip, where avid juniors take a trip up north and visit college campuses on the way up. And this year we're actually opening it up opening it up to IB students as well. So this is our biggest group ever going on this trip, and so that's something really big for us right now. And then tomorrow, actually, we have 100 black men and the police department, along with Richard T. Fields Board Association, visiting the school and preparing young men and giving them knowledge on how to prepare themselves with positive relationships and with the law enforcement and the judicial system, which is really important right now. And then we have a Black College Expo that our Heritage members and the Black Student Union will be attending this Saturday at the LA Convention Center. And then Senior Exhibition, which we have every year, is coming up. The Senior Exhibition is actually in April, on April 20th. But throughout the school year, all the seniors prepare for this event. And we've been meeting with our advisors, getting our portfolios together, and just prepping. And then in terms of attendance, currently John W. North is at a 97% attendance rate, and our goal is 98%. So for this to increase attendance, each quarter, a random student from 9th, 10th, and 11th, 12th grade will be selected, and just giving some sort of treat. And then for the first quarter, for perfect attendance, students were given a breakfast burrito, lunch, like little breakfast, to encourage the perfect attendance and to praise them for it. And then for perfect attendance for the semester, there's actually going to be a taco bar luncheon. And then moving on to LCAP goal number 3, to fully engage students, parents, and the community. We have an application workshop going on at John W. North right now, and this is where the counseling staff is holding workshops to help with FAFSA and college apps, because that's really important. So parents can come and they have help available along with computers. And then in December, we had our leadership exchange. So thank you, Mr. Farouk, Dr. Hansen, and Ms. Carmen Day for attending. That was very successful. And then in terms of tailgates, we have two tailgates coming up for our boys and girls basketball and soccer team. We're providing free Kona ice and barbecue as incentives for people to come to the games. And then moving on, we had our midwinter ball last Saturday, and it was very successful. We actually went up 100 students in attendance from last year to this year, so that's very successful. In terms of helping our freshmen, we have our freshman link crew that meet with the freshmen and encourage them to be involved and to join clubs. And in a few weeks, we're having something known as Freshman Summit, where our leaders will meet with freshmen and talk about first semester grades and just give them advice for the upcoming school year. And then in terms of School Plus 2, we have 10 new clubs on campus this year. LCAP is providing shirts as incentives for membership, and they're also providing field trips. So this is really getting more students involved in joining clubs. And lastly, we have Husky Pride Day coming up in a few weeks on March 1st, where the incoming 8th graders will visit the campus, and the student leaders will show them around and give them advice for the upcoming school year. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Well, thank you, Neche. First of all, you got to tell us what happened to your foot.
Oh, my knee. Well, I was playing volleyball back in August, and somebody kicked the ball onto the court, and when I went up to hit the ball, I landed on the ball, and I tore everything in my knee.
Oh.
So, yes. But I had surgery recently, and I'm recovering very well, and yeah.
How's the North team doing without you, though?
They did pretty well. They still won CIF. So we have a pretty strong team. It's all good.
And are you a senior?
Yes.
And so what are your schools you're looking at? What's your thoughts for next year?
I applied to 24 schools. So, I also have to wait till March, so fingers crossed for maybe UC Berkeley. That's my top school right now.
So you're going to let us know, though?
Yes,
All right,
most
very
definitely.
Good. And are you going on the trip up north with Avid?
No, it's actually a junior trip.
It's a junior trip.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
actually went last year, visited Berkeley. It's beautiful, so I'm very excited for that. Hopefully.
Well, I know it's for the young boys tomorrow, but if you have a chance to meet Judge Fields, he's a wonderful gentleman and has a very interesting story and of where he came from in South Central and was able to, get ahead, and he and his sisters and his mom. So it's very inspiring. Thank you for your report tonight, Neche.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And now we have, thank you. And hearing from the Mighty Bears of Poly High School, Madeline Tovar. Madeline? And timers, don't worry about the time when the students come up. It's okay. Just let it go.
Okay. Good evening, President Hunt, Dr. Hansen, and other members of the board. My name is Madeline Tovar, and I'll be representing Poly High School tonight. LCAP goal number 1, how Poly is creating a high-quality learning and teaching environment. One of the things Poly is doing to create a better learning environment is credit recovery. Credit recovery is a class students can take on campus which allows students to get back on track for the credits that they need to graduate high school. This is a class students are enrolled in at the beginning of the semester. Thanks to the efforts of Mr. Leon, the teacher of credit recovery, 100 class credits were recovered. On Wednesday, January 27th, there was a fourth period student advisory meeting. Students were asked where areas on campus where they felt more safe and less safe. Campus supervisors attended this meeting as well in order to get some feedback from the students on how they could improve the overall safety on campus at Poly. LCAP Goal 2, how Poly has been preparing students to be college and career ready. The juniors enrolled in Puente and Avid classes are taking a college tour of Northern California schools, which include CSU Channel Island, Cal Poly SLO, CSU San Jose, San Francisco State, Berkeley, Stanford, and Fresno State. LCAP goal number 3, how Poly has been creating a community atmosphere. Tailgates. ASB held 2 tailgates in front of the gym at Poly. One was on January 21st and the other was on the 26th. 200 students attended the boys' game and around 80 students attended the girls' game. We were able to track the amount of students who attended through the Heroes tracking system. We also personally invited students who were identified as uninvolved in the Heroes system to the 2 tailgates. Lastly is the Bear Bowl. For those of you who don't know what the Bear Bowl is, it's where all the special education programs in the RUSD district come to Poly's football field and score a touchdown with our football team. And the marching band and cheer team are at the end zone cheering for them and playing songs when they make that touchdown. It's our 3rd annual Bear Bowl, and it will be held this Wednesday, February 3rd.
At what time?
I think it's like in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it starts like really early in the morning, and it goes like all throughout the school day, because it's like all of the schools are going through it, and I think they do like 2 or 3 plays with each of the students.
It's a wonderful event.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite events.
Yeah, it shows a lot about Poly's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we commend you for any questions for Madeline. Yes, Ms. Alavi.
Well, it's more of a
The
comment.
Poly grad herself.
Yeah, that's right. More of a comment, but I'm very happy to see you using the HERO program. Remember, this is the software that we got that's supposed to kind of identify what the kids are involved in. And you see, Poly is using it exactly as we intended, which is you can also identify then who's not getting involved.
Mm-hmm. We're also having like games of the seasons where like each of the sports, they get to pick like a game that they want to like showcase as the game of the season, and we're also doing Heroes tracking system there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent, Madeline. What year are you, Madeline?
I'm a senior.
So you got a lot of applications out there?
No, I only have 3. I don't have 24 or 18.
Well, you're very sure of yourself then.
Yeah.
There you go. And what are those 3?
I'm just going to stay local, like Cal State. So I'm doing, my number 1 would be Sonoma State, and then San Marcos, and then Cal State Fullerton.
Well, very good. We'll look forward to hearing from you and your peers.
Yeah.
And I know you're all good students, pardon my cold, and so you don't have to stay for the rest of this, but you're welcome to, of course. And we really appreciate you giving the input and looking at the LCAP goals, and that's the kind of input we want to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Madeline and her. Appreciate it. And I really meant if you want to leave, go ahead. I don't want to have you stay, but it's good. All right, so now we'll hear from our district superintendent, Dr. David Hanson. Thank you, young people. Appreciate it.
Thank you, President Hunt. And as they walk out, I'd just like to thank Alexander, Sophia, Netche, and Madeline for their reports. We've heard the board, and I want to thank our Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gerald Hanson, who had a chance to meet with all the activities advisors. And the students, while they've been given great reports over the course of the last several years, tonight, though, you can see the focus has been around the LCAP goals, more student-centered, academic focus, life of a student on campus. And so, again, thank you, Mr. Hanson, for helping prepare our kids and for those great reports this evening. To the board, there's a few things I'd like to report on to you. First is to provide information to the board about the voting cycle and to share with you some things that we have learned. The current date for election of the governing board members of the Riverside School District currently is every 2 years on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of the odd years. And statewide general elections are held in California only in June and November on even years. And the district has been informed that there would be a cost savings for the district resulting from aligning the district's elections with the statewide general elections in those even years. And generally, voter turnout is greater for statewide elections than for special local elections, including school board elections. And as a result of these facts, the board can change the date of future board member elections to be consolidated with the California statewide general elections in order to save the district money and provide greater provide greater voter input in school board elections. To make this change, the board will need to adopt a resolution and seek approval from the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. And if the change in election date is approved, it is being requested that the new election date be moved from November 2017 to November 2018, with board members whose terms would have expired in 2017 being extended to 2018, and board members whose terms would expire in 2019 be extended to 2020. This action, as I mentioned, it would save us money, and it needs to be done 240 days before the cycle of the election affected. So in other words, for 2017, about a year from now, we'd certainly need to have that done. In our case, of course, it is the 2017 election, as I mentioned. And so with that in mind, the recommendation is to bring back to the board, staff will prepare a resolution for you to consider starting this process, and would bring it back in the probably the June, July board meetings. Just a bit of information for you on that election cycle. And I'll certainly entertain any questions or comments that you might have as we move closer to making that change.
Can I ask, isn't that it's great that we save money, but also it's a new law required if the turnout is under 25%?
Correct. When you see that the elections for local elections have a turnout lower than 25%, we've certainly been encouraged to move to the even years where we have a higher election turnout. So thank you for clarifying that, President Hunt. The next thing I'd like to report on is the Fellows Men Mob. It is a large group of positive businessmen and entrepreneurs who come together and motivate and encourage students. And on Monday, January the 11th, the Fellows arrived at the entrance gate at Poly High School. And this is a great event. The Fellows were anxious to visit. They are anxious to visit other campuses here in Riverside. And I have a short video clip that I'd like to show at this time to the board members and those that are here to let you see what occurred on Monday, January 11th at Poly High School.
Have you ever felt? Are you listening? Yeah. Yeah.
Today we had the fellas, it's called the Men Mob, where we come in and just give positive affirmations to students, letting them know that men in the community, that we care, and that we would come out and support them as they go to school. It's really just that simple.
What's really said here is not in words, but in action, so that when kids come, they see this group, this family, this crowd, this gathering of people who are really excited about them coming to school. So I think that's really fantastic.
The level of energy that was on this campus this morning as a result, and I think having the Rocky music playing in the background, it was impossible not to walk on the campus this morning and not feel that level of energy, and to be able to see professionals in the community, dads, suit and tie, showing their support for not just their kid but for all kids in the Poly community, I think is rare, and I think it was well received by the students, even though you could see the look of fear in their eye. They haven't been caught by that much energy on a Monday morning that wasn't at least caffeine induced, but it was a really, really neat event.
I guess it's cool. I wasn't expecting it, but I thought it was cool and something fun and funny.
Pretty good. It was just random, pretty good. I'm just excited for graduation because I want to make my mom proud and stuff like that. So good. It's something new on Monday morning.
It makes me feel like today's going to be a good day. I have to agree. It was very eye-opening.
Oh, we love it. We love it. We've actually been in several school districts throughout San Bernardino and Riverside County, and we're able to support students. So anywhere where we can support students in the inland region, that's what we want to be able to do.
Well, it feels good. My life is working with kids, and I'm around kids all day, every day.
It seems like everything that I'm doing has something to do with furthering the veterans of our young people. So just coming out, just to give a high five, if that's the least you can do is a high five, you know. To a kid today, I think that was a big deal.
Well, you guys saw their faces lit up, their excitement to know that we were here, to believe them, to have the Bulls theme song, to have Rocky's theme song. It hypes them up for the rest of the day, and we've seen that from district to district that we worked in. So we know that it's going to make a difference in these students' lives.
Again, very grateful to the fellows and the men mob, the leadership of Dr. Kaisha Holmes and Principal Dr. Rowe, who quickly volunteered to participate in that, and we look forward to having them attend and visit many of our other schools in the district. At this time, I'd like to give our Chief Academic Officer, Lynn Carmenday, a few moments to provide an update from Educational Services.
Thank you. I want to start out with a celebration last Thursday on the 28th. We celebrated a powerful partnership with CVS Pharmacy and Project Team, which is our adult transition program for special ed students. And we opened up a facility, a mock CVS store and training center here, right behind you, in one of the modules, room C4, if you want to go and visit that facility. The true purpose of the store is to provide an opportunity for middle and high school students to go and receive training prior to getting into the real workplace. And of course, it's run by our adult transition students. Very exciting. At our last principals meeting, we briefly discussed attendance at board meetings and the desire for the district to provide principals with an opportunity to share sites and clusters information to the board with respect to highlights and maybe some challenges. We will be revisiting this conversation this Thursday at the principals meeting, but you will find a schedule for that in the mail out this week. Another idea that we're thinking through is to actually have a special study session where boards can have table talks where our board trustees can have table talks with each of the cluster representatives. So we thought that might be something that would provide a deeper awareness of what's happening at the sites and original dialogue with the principals. Also, I wanted to highlight the visual and performing arts progress that we've made. We have a pilot that's currently happening at 23 of our elementary schools. It's in partnership with Riverside Arts Museum. And we are offering for all 5th and 6th graders at those schools lessons in fine arts by original artists. And so it's something for us to expand and provide a foundation for students as they continue with the arts all the way through 12th grade. Since the January 19th board meeting, staff has had the opportunity to research the student board member concept, where we may have a non-voting student member of the board of trustees potentially. So what we want to do is send you some information in the mail out this week, and then from there provide you with an opportunity at a future board meeting to have a discussion about that potential. Just a quick reminder, Woody Rucker Hughes mentioned this, but we are having the Parent Summit this weekend. So this is our 5th annual Parent Education Summit, and it's February 6th at Poly High School. We hope that you can attend. I want to wrap up with a recognition of our school counselors, since it is National Counseling Week, and for the work that they do. I know that they revised the comprehensive guidance program for the district last year. They're being provided with additional training this year, and our goal is to continue to serve our students well and recognize their strong efforts for the achievement and placement of our students in higher education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carmenday. And I look forward to being part of that Parent Summit this Saturday. And staff just reminded me, too, the voting cycle law, it actually goes into effect January of 17. So we have time. for us to do that. That's why we would bring it back to you later on this year. But again, it needs to be done by 240 days before the election cycle, so that would be about February of next year. So we'll keep you updated. In closing, I'd like to congratulate
Would you take a question from Mr. Lee about
you
that?
bet.
Thank you, Trustee Lee.
I know you said we have some time on that one, but if when you do come back with a resolution or a recommendation, if you could provide some data with the voter turnout between the two and how much the cost savings would be.
You bet. We will do that. We'll do that.
Thank you, Trustee Lee.
Yeah, thank you very much. In closing, I'd like to congratulate the following district administrators who have been selected as AXA's Region 19 Administrator of the Year. Our very own Miss Susan Mills, who Assistant Superintendent Personnel, who will be receiving the Ferd Kiesel Memorial Distinguished Service Award. Congratulations, Susan. And I look out, and although I don't see her, but Joyce Threadgold, Executive Secretary of Business Services, the Confidential Employee of the Year for Region 19.
Oh, wow.
And last but certainly not least, Mrs. Kylie Ibarra, Director of Certificated Personnel and Human Resources, the Human Resource Administrator of the Year for Region 19. So congratulations to Susan, Joyce, and Kylie. They will all be recognized in awards ceremony in Palm Springs on June the 3rd, and we will, as we get closer, be sure to put that on your radar as board members. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. Do we have any public input, Ms. Anderson? All right. We'll move forward then. We have our district employee group reports, and first our great partners with the PTA, Ms. Gina Cheadle. Gina? No, she can't be here. Okay. She might feel as I do right now. So then we'll go to our CSEA presentation by their president of Chapter 506, Mr. Dan Rudd.
Excuse me, still getting over my cold.
Yeah, I am too.
Good evening, President Hunt, Dr. Hanson, school board members, and cabinet members. Chapter 506 has been busy in the last couple months. We had our executive board elections, and the officers were sworn in January. And the new officers are myself, President, Joseph Baglio, first vice president. Second vice president is Michael Green. Please stand up.
Michael.
Our third vice president is Nina Moore. Our treasurer is Nancy Vincent. Our secretary is Colleen Hairston. Our seat pro is Bernie Holt. Please stand up, Bernie.
Bernie.
And our chief union steward is Carrie Aldis. Our past president is still Richard Carpenter. And the other members would have been here, but two of them just had surgery, and one of them has busted rib. So we're going down quick. We'll be putting a lot of time and energy to serve our members and our RUSD students. We had our reclassification training last Thursday. Reclassification is when our members need to be reclassed for different classification, and we're the only chapter in CSE right now is doing reclassification training for the members, because it's basically a lot of them don't know what reclassification is, so we school them on what a reclass is as opposed to a recertification or a re-job structure. And we had 22 attendees this time, and hopefully they'll get their paperwork in. We will be having a Know Your Rights training on February 11th for our members. That is so they know their rights and responsibilities for the district. And in March, we're going to be attending the officer skills training for all the newly elected officers, so they are better suited for their position and know how to better suit and serve the district. Also in March, we have a Maintenance and Operation Academy, and in April, we're going to have a para-education conference in Ontario this year. So we'll be able to send more of our members to this it's a great opportunity for the para-educators to get more information on new laws and new ways of handling what's going on. Also, at our next general meeting, February 17th, we'll be voting on our new negotiations team for 2016 and for our delegates to the Central Labor Council. And at this time, I would like to thank Dr. Hanson and Dr. Fruit for attending our officer installation dinner at CBU and I'm so very sorry I wasn't able to make it. I had pneumonia, and my wife let me go. She said she didn't want to get everybody sick. And I would also like to bring up, we have a member unity program that we were invited to go to this year, and usually you have to submit a referral to. And since we've had our members go 3 years ago, they weren't going to allow us to, so we didn't even bother putting it in. But they invited a team of our USD to go. And I'd like to introduce our coordinator for, we call it MUP, Member Unity Program. Her name is Deanna Patches. And she will be involving all of our members, and it's basically a way to get more of our members into how the union works and to coordinate things for the district, and whatever makes our union strong makes the district strong in the end. And again, in closing, I'd just like to thank the board and the cabinet again for the continued support to the classified staff. Any questions?
Any questions for President Rudd?
Hopefully not.
President, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
And Bernie, it's good to see you back and healthy, and thank you for your work you do on Veterans Day, making sure that we recognize your fellow members. All right, now we go to the consent calendar. These are items that are considered to be routine, and we'll usually take them in one order unless there's anyone that wants to pull an item on the board. Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion for the consent calendar? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Dr. Farouk, I apologize. All right. Thank you, Trustee Farouk. So we have a motion from Dr. Trustee Frust. I have a cold, folks, so good thing I didn't call him Mr. Nyquil, really. So we have a motion from Dr. Farouk to approve the consent calendar. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Lockdawson. And so please vote. That is approved. Thank you. That includes, please note, 2 out-of-state field trips, which are very interesting. All right, now we're going to hear a report from our Assistant Superintendent on curriculum instruction and on dual language immersion expansion. Riverside Unified is now in its 6th year in dual language and in place at 4 of our elementary sites. The first cohort of DLL students will be moving to middle school in 2017-18. So as we grow, the purpose of this presentation is to make recommendations to the board on vertical and horizontal expansion of the program.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Hunt, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. As you stated, Mr. Hunt, we do have some recommendations on expansion, both vertically into the secondary schools and also horizontally in terms of additional elementary schools. To provide those recommendations and a context for that and some information is Michelle Mitchell.
So we're on pages 79 to 88. Is that right? Yes. Ms. Mitchell, hi.
Good evening, Board President Hunt, Dr. Hanson, esteemed members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening and have the opportunity to share with you our recommendations for both vertical and horizontal expansion of our dual language immersion program. And in a moment, we'll expand our PowerPoint, hopefully.
Renee knows how to work it.
Where? Like this one? This is a bad time to have battery problems. Thank you. All right. As you know already, our current DLI program is in place at 4 elementary schools in Riverside Unified, Castleview, Jefferson, Mountain View, and Washington. As we look at the slide, we can see the number of classrooms that we have in place at every grade level. You'll note that we have 34 classrooms now in the program and a total of 840 students. As we expand 1 grade per year at each of our schools and reach our capacity of kindergarten through 6th grade at each of those schools, we will have 59 classes in place and a total of, a total of almost 1,500 dual language immersion students. So we're very excited about how our program is growing and the success that we're also experiencing. As we began our process for both vertical and horizontal expansion. We had discussions with several of our colleagues in the area around us who already have model programs in place and are having success with those programs. We wanted to look at districts that had, first of all, multiple elementary schools that were providing the dual language immersion program, and also districts that included a pathway into secondary. When we worked with our colleagues, we learned some valuable lessons. First, as we look to expanding horizontally and selecting our next elementary schools, we want to make sure that we have our Spanish speakers in place, that they're there as that important resource for building that target language. So we want to look at schools that have at least 30% EL population already in place. We also want to look at continued attendance in the program through 8th grade. We realize that our students will be bilingual and biliterate at the end of 6th grade, but we want to make sure that they maintain that language, that they carry that biliteracy through secondary and beyond. We also learned that expansion pathways should also be feeder pathways. And by that we mean that we want to do the most we can to avoid attrition when students move from 6th grade to 7th grade. So building in that pathway that moves our elementary schools into their own feeder middle school is one way to avoid that attrition. We also learned that our secondary teachers who are going to be teaching on our program must be fluent not only in Spanish, but in the academic Spanish of their content area. So we're going to be looking for some very specialized teachers as we move into secondary. So now we'd like to share recommendation 1 with you, which addresses vertical expansion. We're very excited. We're really looking forward to our middle school edition because, as Mr. Garcia pointed out, we are going to be in middle school before we know it. So we have our 5th grade cohort in place, moving into 6th grade and then into 7th grade. So given the lessons that we learned from our colleagues, we recommend that Riverside create and sustain 2 vertical dual language immersion pathways from elementary through middle school. At the moment, we have 2 elementary schools on one side of the city and 2 elementary schools on the other side of the city. We want to make sure that 2 vertical pathways will allow all of those 6th grade students to move into 7th grade and move into a DLI program if that's what they choose to do. We also realize that 2 vertical pathways will help limit attrition that may come about due to parent transportation issues, for example. We recommend that our vertical expansion look like this. So in 2017, Washington is going to move to middle school. In 2018, Castleview will follow. Both of those schools feed directly into Gage Middle School. That's their feeder pattern. Also, when we look at our students in Washington and Castleview, almost 50% of those students have Gage Middle School as their school of residence. So it made logical sense for us. It was a logical choice to look to Gage to be our first middle school and be that middle school on the first pathway. In 2020, Mountain View moves to middle school, and in 2021, Jefferson follows. Both Mountain View and Jefferson feed into Sierra Middle School. And almost 90% of the students who are in Mountain View and Jefferson DLI programs have Sierra as their school of residence. So selecting these 2 sites for our middle school expansion schools will really help to limit that attrition and help students really have that opportunity to move forward in their DLI pathway. You'll notice that our high schools are labeled as to be determined. We do believe in having a high school pathway for our students. We do believe that a high school opportunity, a high school DLI opportunity, would be wonderful for those students who really see themselves moving down a language pathway. But we also realize that there are challenges as we move to high school. And we want to make sure that we make an informed and well-investigated decision before we actually begin to name a high school. When we look at other districts around us, we notice that those who have that pathway in place already for secondary, many of them just go to middle school. Many don't have a high school that students are feeding into. Other districts that do feed into high school have just one high school. They don't have multiple high schools. So when we're making that decision for our high school, we really want to be sure that we know what attrition is going to look like in the middle school and what interest students have as they move forward into high school. We want to make sure that we can sustain one high school. And if we do believe we can sustain one high school, what high school is that going to be? What high school will service the majority of our students? So we really want to take some time and make a well thought out and well investigated decision before we recommend high school. Our recommendation 2 for expansion in the dual language immersion program is our horizontal expansion. So we know that the LCAP is asking for us to expand. And as we looked at expansion into other elementary schools, we did have some concerns and some questions, and we listed them for you here on the slide. But after a lot of discussion with other districts around us, with our steering committee and with our working group, we really found ourselves moving down to 0.5. That with the popularity and success of the existing program, we really have to move forward. Even if we have challenges, even if we have questions, even if we have hurdles to overcome, we really believe that it's the right thing to do for our students. We know that this is a popular program. We see that from the number of parents who call and want to be involved in the program. We know that it's successful. When we look at our data, it's helping all of our students to reach higher levels of achievement. So it is the responsible and the ethical thing to do to give more students in our district the opportunity to participate in this program. As we moved forward with discussion of possible elementary schools, we remembered the lessons we learned from our colleagues around us. So we looked first for schools in our district that have 30% or more EL population. And 7 schools met that criteria: Liberty, Jackson, Madison, Longfellow, Fremont, Beatty, and Highgrove. But we wanted to look further because we have other criteria for having putting in place a successful elementary DLI school. We looked at the number of B-clad teachers that are in place at those schools. We realized that this is a wonderful program, and for me, there's no barrier to expanding in my heart. But we know that when we look at our DLI schools, we want to make sure that we have B-clad teachers in place. Those are the teachers who already have the authorization to be teaching in Spanish. Because we know that if we don't have that capacity at our school sites and we need to move B-clad teachers into the school, that may initiate involuntary transfers for our English-only teachers. And involuntary transfers can create some stress at a school site, and we'd like to avoid that as much as possible. We also looked at space. We want to make sure that there's room at the school for the program to grow as it expands grade by grade. So when we looked at that 3 criteria, one school stood out as meeting really what we were looking for, and that school is Longfellow. Longfellow certainly has the EL population. Their EL population is 55%. They have several B-clad teachers already on campus, so we would have a wonderful pool of teachers to choose from. They have space available, not a lot of space, but they do have some space that we can grow into. And as we look at the population at Longfellow, there's a possibility that many of the students in the program will be Longfellow students anyway. So space may not be as great an issue as it might be at other sites. We have a principal who's very interested in the program. We've talked with her already. Ms. Castro has expressed very positive interest in the program, and she's also has begun the process of talking to her staff, and we're seeing some positive responses there as well. And we really believe that this would be a good fit for our 5th elementary school. So as we move forward, we are strongly recommending that we seriously consider Longfellow as our next elementary school.
The next year?
Yes, 16, 17.
Thank you.
And then in 17, 18, we'll add an additional school. If we go with Longfellow, that's in the uni cluster. The 6th DLI elementary school would be in that cluster as well. So next steps for us as we move forward with expansion. Personnel is actively recruiting this winter and spring for B-clad teachers. Ms. Cortez and Ms. Ibarra certainly know what we're looking for. They know the program. They know the subject areas that we're going to be introducing in our 7th and 8th grades. And they certainly know the high quality that we're looking for. So they're out there actively recruiting, both for secondary and elementary. We know that as students move from 6th grade to 7th grade, there will be some students who will need a transfer into that middle school. With Gage, almost 50% of the students are School of Residence students, but those other students are going to need transfers if they're going to participate in the program. So Pupil Services will begin the planning to put that in place so that there are transfer spots available for students when we get to 7th grade. We want to make sure that an adequate amount of funding continues to be built into the LCAP to address this expansion. Additional curriculum, materials, staffing, B-clad stipends. And then, of course, our DLI working group is continuing to research elementary expansion just a little bit further, and then, of course, our key high school expansion, which we talked about earlier. Thank you, and we welcome input, questions from our board.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell, and I appreciate so much your heartfelt dedication to this. Mrs. Alavi and I were here 6 years ago, and we both really worked to help bring this about with you and your peers, and so it's a wonderful program. Would you take a question from Trustee Block Dawson, please?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for that terrific report. Appreciate it, and it's a very forward-thinking, and it's really optimistic. I'm happy that we're looking at this. Two questions I had was, are we looking at different languages other than Spanish, or is that even being considered?
We aren't looking at other languages, and there's a very good reason. The reason that the dual language immersion program works so well is that at least 35 to 50% of our students are Spanish dominant students. You need that percentage in your classroom of the target language speakers in order for this wonderful process to take place. So although it would be a very interesting next step to take, we don't have a large enough pool of other target language speakers who could make this work.
Yeah, I'm curious, if that's research. I think it's Pasadena Unified or something. They have a Chinese one that starts in kindergarten, and I know that they don't have that many kids who are Chinese fluent when they start. So, I mean, I'm a little confused by that statistics. Is it?
Well, I think there are immersion programs out, in other districts, and that would be considered when you don't have the target language speakers, and everyone, for example, everyone is an English speaker, for example, who's going to be learning Mandarin. That's an immersion program.
Okay, so you differentiate between those two. Okay,
yes.
That's good to know. All right, and then the other question is, you said you were looking to make the decision about the high schools, and I think that's great that you're taking your time to do that, because I want to get it right as we do that. But you said you were looking to see whether they would be sustainable, and I'm just curious what are the type of criteria you're going to be looking at to make that determination? Just because we kind of glossed over that a little bit. I'm just interested.
One of the things that we do know from looking at districts around us, from talking with our colleagues, is that when dual language immersion students move into the high school, we're going to see attrition, unfortunately. I'm passionate about the program, but when students get to high school, many students are ready for something different. They may want to choose a sports pathway or a music pathway, or they may want to go into the sciences. So we have the evidence in front of us from other districts that there will be attrition, a lot of attrition. And at the moment, we don't have any way of gauging what that attrition is going to look like in our district, because we haven't even gotten to middle school yet. So we really want to get a feel for, first of all, how many students do move to middle school. We hope it will be a large amount of students, because we're picking those two middle schools to build pathways that will, produce the least attrition. But we need to do some investigation, for example, survey parents. When students get into middle school, survey parents, survey students. Try to get an idea of what that interest is going to be. And then that's going to help us decide, can we even sustain a high school? If we only have 5 students who want to continue, we probably wouldn't be able to begin as high school then.
So attrition is really going to be your overarching,
Attrition-
probably the biggest criterion. you're
Right,
gonna
attrition
use.
is going to be the biggest criteria. We know what the subject areas will look like, we know what the curriculum will look like, but it's really trying to figure out how many students are really going to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Would you take a question from Trustee Brentley?
Thank you for your report. It's exciting to see the progress of the program, and I know last year, for good reason, we passed on horizontal expansion of the program for the very issues that you still list in here. But I'm glad that we're moving forward and looking at new areas to serve kids with these same opportunities that some of the kids already have. And seeing your presentation at multiple meetings, but the latest at the last DLI advocacy meeting, and sharing the data that these students who are just in their infancy of school, who have a majority of their studies in Spanish, yet they have to take assessments in English, are still outperforming the regular cohort of kids that have all their instruction in English. So I think that says a lot about the program and the quality of the program. So just as I share your passion and think that this program can be continue to improve and continue to provide opportunities for all kids to be successful. And I also think it's a really good use of our LCAP dollars. We can strongly make an argument and data to support that the funds that are being provided by the state are benefiting the extra funds, the grant money that's being provided, are having a direct impact on those very students that we're giving the extra money for. So I'm proud of that. I'm excited about that. You mentioned attrition, and I've had conversation also with Mr. Garcia about that. I think that survey needs to be done with parents now. I don't think we should wait any longer to figure out what parents are going to do. My 5-year-old already know he's going to graduate from Stanford, so I already know I'm planning on what he's going to do now, and I think all parents are doing that. And I think while that might change, like you say, and a kid finds a passion for sciences or sports, the nice thing about the DLI program is you don't have to pick and choose. The only thing I could think of that would potentially interfere with the kid getting out of the DLI program, besides age, is something like a STEM program where in 5th grade they have to decide whether or not they're going to start that course of study. So I think one way we can limit attrition, one, is to put a plan in front of parents now so that they can be assured that this district is behind the program. And if I'm a parent and I see a plan that the district is behind that says this is where your kid's going to middle school and this is where your kid's going to high school. If you're a middle school student, this is the type of coursework you can expect in the DLI. And if you're in a high school DLI student, this is the type of coursework you can expect to have. So that as a parent, I know, hey, my kid can be on the water polo team and they can also do DLI. They can take AP Physics and they can also be part of DLI. If I know that, as a parent, I can support my kid continuing in that program and making sure that when they graduate that they're biliterate and bilingual and they don't leave the program. So while I'm glad that we're spending time thinking about which school is best for high school, I'm glad we identified the junior high, and I think those are smart, logical choices, and then adding university. I really think we can't delay the process for high school. Because parents are going to be starting making those decisions on whether or not to continue their program in middle school. And if they're out in middle school, then obviously they're not going to be in high school. So I would encourage that survey now to find out what parents are going to do, so at least we have some idea we're not taking a shot in the dark. I'm sure you've already looked at data from other districts that have done this, so we have an idea. I think it's around 50%. So that should be the goal, and then anything we can do to improve. And just really lining up that high school. It seems like based on the map, your two choices are Poly or Ramona, and it looks like Poly has is a lot more centrally located. So to me, it seems like that would be a good location, but I'll leave that to staff and surveys to decide. But I am excited about the progress, and I'm glad that the expansion is happening, and I think Longfellow is a great next step. So thanks for all your work. And the other question I have for you and Dr. Hansen is, as this program expands, and you have growing pains, just like we've seen with STEM and some of the other programs, do we have the support administratively that's necessary to keep a program like this firing at all cylinders? I know that you're the point person really for DLI, but not your whole entire job is not DLI. So I just want to make sure that we have the resources especially since we probably saved some LCAP dollars last year from not expanding, to support this program and make sure that it's giving, so we don't have the same attrition as other districts. So thank you very much. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And Mr. Lee, hold out hope. He might get into UCLA yet. So, don't just settle for Stanford. So, and now Mrs. Allaby, Trustee Allaby.
Thank you. Can you describe for me what this pathway in middle school is going to look like? Is it going to have a course schedule of every single course in Spanish English? Is it 50-50, or will there be just certain courses given in DLI?
That is a great question.
Oh, and you may not know this.
No, we already know the curriculum.
Oh,
so
okay.
Even though we were waiting to present the sites to you, our steering committee has already been working on all the details of putting the program in place. So as we move into secondary, students in sixth grade, students are in a 50-50 situation. So half of their day, half of their classes are in English and half are in Spanish. When they move to middle school, out of their 6-period day, 2 periods will be in Spanish and 4 periods will be in English. And we want to make sure that as they move through 7th and 8th grade, that we're maintaining that biliteracy. So we want to make sure that one class will maintain their English literacy and one class will maintain their Spanish literacy. So of course they'll have English language arts in English, and that will maintain their English literacy. But in order to maintain their Spanish literacy, we're going to be offering them pre-AP Spanish, and then of course AP Spanish in 8th grade. And then at 7th grade, for that other period, 7th grade history will be presented in Spanish, and 8th grade science will be presented in Spanish.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a follow-up question from Trustee Lee?
Yeah, sorry, one quick thing. As the transfer window's open now, I understand, right, for DLI, what are we doing to, especially since we're adding a campus, where are we advertising, where are we recruiting students, and how are we getting the word out that the transfer window's open?
Well, the transfer window right now, we're doing several things. So we started the process January the 4th. So throughout December and January, as a matter of fact, we had 10 parent information meetings. We've posted flyers in all of the elementary, secondary, and high schools. We have flyers, of course, in all the preschools, flyers at the Family Resource Center and at the Language Assessment Center. We sent out auto dialers. All 4 schools sent auto dialers out to all of their parents. We posted the information on our district website, and actually it's still in a pretty prominent area. It hasn't scrolled down too far, with a direct link to our web page. And then, of course, we've promoted our web page. So everywhere we go, we have the link to our web page. That's where parents go to do the online application. And as for the expansion school, we'll have to do a modification on that. Obviously, parents who are interested in Longfellow won't have time to apply to this transfer window, an application window. So we'll set up a process where Longfellow parents, if that is the school we do go to, Longfellow parents will have an opportunity first to apply because we do honor School of Residence applications. And then we'll open it up to people who may already be on the waiting list from the current application window who might want to go to Longfellow. And then we'll open it up to the district if we still have spaces available.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I have a question for you, if you would. It's my Stater Brothers question. We meet our constituents a lot of times in Stater Brothers, and I need to be able to explain to them. So I have some friends that are up in the Orange Crest area. The kids go to a JFK type school. They don't have this Latino population up there that you're looking for, your criteria. I think it's 1/3, did you say?
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
So, but now I shouldn't even pick on it. Henry is bilingual, so if it was my daughter that when she was little like that, she would go in without any knowledge of Spanish. What difference does it make if there's an Hispanic child next to her, if they're all learning Spanish at once? I mean, so how do I explain the reason we don't have it up there?
Well, I think the power of the dual language immersion program is that we have those 2 groups of language speakers. When you have an immersion program, and we talked about the immersion program a little bit earlier, the only role model in that classroom for the target language is the teacher. And every other student in the class is an English speaker. So when students talk to each other, they're talking to an English speaker. And even though the teacher in that immersion setting may be doing all she can do to get them use Mandarin or Hmong or Romanian or whatever the target language happens to be, the interaction among students is still going to be English speakers to English speakers until they develop more language. In the dual language immersion program, it's the power of those two language groups that interact together and collaborate together and work together and really help each other not only learn that language but appreciate that language and the culture that goes with it. That's the dynamic that really is the secret sauce, so to speak, in the dual language immersion program. And all of our research studies will point that out. It's critical to have that target group if you want to see the success that we're seeing.
I think I can replicate that, so thank you. That was very good. Thank you for your report. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Very important and program we're very proud of, and as you can see, we have strong advocates up and down the board for it.
Yes,
Thank
and
you,
I thank you
for
for
your
that.
work and your professionalism.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to go to item G2, and again, those are Assistant Superintendent Instructional Support. This is about district coding program and initiatives update. And Steve Dunlap will join us to update the board on coding and program initiatives occurring throughout the district. Mr. Dunlap.
Okay. Good evening, President Hunt, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. Waiting to see if this will queue up. Sorry, one moment. There we go, I think. All right, perfect. So this evening, the item before you is really a conversation and an update for the board concerning different programs that we have in the district around computer science, computer coding, and computer initiatives. So what I'd like to do for you this evening is to answer three questions. One is, what have we been doing as a district to address computer programming, computer coding for all of our students? For our current initiatives, where are they going in the future? And then the third one, and probably the most important, is why is this a focus for the district? And in order to address those first two questions, I'd like to take you through a very brief timeline, starting with some very small initiatives early on to some more current initiatives that are much larger in their impact. So starting in December 2013, RUSD participated in the very first Hour of Code. This is a national initiative that takes place every December during Computer Science Week. And the aim is to really get students in all grade levels, K through 12, exposed to computer programming and coding. And this is really just 1 hour out of the year in which teachers and students engage in this content. So it's a great program. We've participated for the last 3 years, and every year we continue to get more schools and more students involved in this. One of the things that we found at the end of last year's Hour of Code Week in December 2014 is we had teachers and students asking for opportunities beyond just that hour. And so the innovation department went out and started to look to see what was available out there. One of the things that we landed on was something that Google had just actually put out that same month called CS First. And that CS stands for computer science. And what this is Google's free programming curriculum really targeted at students in grades 4 through 8. But we've seen it as low as students in kindergarten and all the way to students in 12th grade. So what we did last year is we just put a call out to all of our schools because we knew that many had gone into Hour of Code, and we just put a call out and said, is anybody interested in trying some of this curriculum? Over the last year, we've had 16 different schools get involved at various levels. Some of these are taking place after school. Some are taking place during the school day. Started that pilot. In numbers today, we have over 2,000 students who are involved with that. Who total together have written over 16,000 hours of code. So, and again, this is for students we've seen as low as kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So at the same time last year, in January, we actually started to engage a group at the city level, some stakeholders across the city, in an organization called Code to Careers. And really this is a sub-organization or a subcommittee of Smart Riverside. The whole goal for Code to Careers is to advance computer science in Riverside, not just for students in K-12, but all of its residents. This is made up of individuals from institutes of higher education, individuals from the business sector, such as Gordon Borns and George Hansel from Jaguar Systems, as well as individuals from the city. And really what RUSD brings to it is the K-12 perspective and what we can do to help move forward computer science in Riverside, and really to help make Riverside a tech hub for the future. moving to some more recent initiatives, in December 2015, we were able to secure a partnership with an organization called Girls Who Code. And this was very much to the credit of Dr. Farouk, who worked very hard to get this partnership in place. And it actually happens to be the very first district partnership that Girls Who Code has taken place in. So RUSD, as always, is on the forefront of the next big thing, I guess. And Girls Who Code, their whole premise is to help close that gender gap that exists in computer science and the information technology field. So they do this through after-school clubs and some intensive summer institutes. Those after-school clubs are really aimed at girls in grades 6 through 12, and the summer institute is aimed at incoming juniors and seniors. And so we are currently having conversations with the folks at Girls Who Code to see how our two organizations can work together to bring these opportunities to our female students in our USD. Another another opportunity we just jumped into in January was actually a partnership with an organization called Code.org. Code.org is actually the institution that puts on the Hour of Code every year. They actually have district partnerships that are available as well. Generally, these are for much larger districts such as Los Angeles Unified, Chicago Public Schools, DC Public Schools, but we were approached in September by Code.org to consider applying for a partnership. And so we were able to secure that partnership. It's the first of its kind in the Inland Empire. It is a 3-year partnership, and what it does is it provides curriculum in computer science and professional development, or the help with professional development for our teachers. One thing that was unique about this is we didn't just go for this on our own. What we started to do is reach out to other school districts in our area to see if we could get some momentum around this partnership. And what we were able to do is actually be the lead district in an 8-district consortium for Code.org. It's the first consortium of its kind with Code.org, and we're very proud to be the lead organization on that. And you can see there we have Paris Union High School District who's involved, Valverde Unified, Harupa Unified, Temecula Valley Unified, San Jacinto Unified, Corona Norco, and Fontana Unified. And while each district has their own memorandum of understanding with the organization, and some are still working on that, we look forward to moving that consortium forward in the future. We also had some local partners. The City of Riverside wrote a support letter for us that came from Mayor Bailey, the Office of Economic Development, as well as the Public Library. Borns Incorporated, Smart Riverside, and K&N Engineering have committed to help us as we move forward with this partnership in the future. One last bit on the Code.org. What it really does specifically is brings in computer science and computer coding opportunities to all of our students K through 12. So in elementary, it starts to weave those computer science opportunities into the existing math and science curriculum. So it's not an additional component we're bringing to the classroom, but it's that application piece for students. And again, this goes down to grades K and all the way up to 12th grade. In middle school, it does the same thing. It integrates the computer sciences into math and science, so it's, again, not an additional course, but eventually every student would have that opportunity to engage in these different courses. At high school, this is, I think, the most exciting component, is it provides 2 courses that will be available next year. Actually, the Exploring Computer Science course is currently board approved in RUSD and is taught at North High School. Our hope is that in the future we can expand that to all of our high schools. The other course is Computer Science Principles. This is the new college board approved AP course for computer science. We currently don't have this on the books in RUSD, but it is coming to the board at the March 7th meeting for approval. So we are very excited to be able to provide that, hopefully, to our students in the 2016-17 school year. So moving from our current initiatives on to the big question of why. Why is RUSD, or why does staff see this as an area that we want to focus on? And I want to propose for the board 4 reasons tonight. The first of those really comes to STEM. We know that as a district we can always do a better job at providing more opportunities to our students across the district in STEM. And the big part there that we tend to lack a little bit in is the technology piece. These different initiatives will allow us to provide all of our students in RUSD with a rich STEM curriculum, especially in the technical field. The second one I'd like to propose really comes to an economic standpoint, or from an economic standpoint, and talks about jobs. So last week in his State of the City address, Mayor Bailey gave a statistic that comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that says by 2020, we're going to see a big gap in students who can fulfill jobs. So they say by 2020, there'll be 1 million more jobs than students in the computer science field and related fields. That is a big problem. That's one that we want to help solve. Another component to that is that if you look at all the bachelor's degrees that are awarded in the United States, only 2.4% of those are in computer science. With that current trajectory, we are not going to be able to compete and have our students ready for the jobs, not the jobs of the future, but the jobs that are happening right now.
Mr.
So,
Dunlop,
yes.
would you mind taking a question from Trustee Alavi?
Absolutely.
In the interim here?
Going back a little bit to
Sure.
the course that's offered at
Yeah.
North. Now, how does that differ from, say, I know there's a computer science course at King. So,
there
are
are-
other high schools
yes.
offering courses that are just not this particular curriculum?
Correct, yes. So a lot of the courses that are considered as computer science could be in Cisco networking is one that I know that's offered at Riverside Virtual School, which deals in computer science, but it's not this specific course. Some around web design, those are also offered at places like King and other
Okay.
high schools, but this specific course is the only one.
It's coding, it's just coding.
Correct, yes.
Got
It's
it.
currently only offered at North High School.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, third reason. This is really to address a gender gap. So, a moment ago I mentioned that of all the bachelor's degrees awarded, 2.4% are in computer science. Of that 2.4%, only 1/8 of those are received by women each year. That's a problem. We want to help address that problem. So, organizations like Girls Who Code, that is their whole mission. We want to partner with them to help close that gender gap and provide that opportunity to our students in RUSD. And then finally, the last one is really thinking about how we use technology. So thinking about passive use versus active use. So in the most recent National Educational Technology Plan, the Department of Education has identified a new digital divide. So when we historically talk about the digital divide, it's really talking about access. So students' access to devices as well as to the internet. But this new emerging divide really comes in how students use technology. So this passive use of just simply consuming information through technology versus that active use of creating and curating content with technology. And so we want, as a district, to be on the forefront of that, not just having our students simply consume technology or consume information, but actually be those that create. So not the students that just play video games, but design those video games, and not just experience virtual reality, but design the virtual reality of the future. And so we know that not all of our students are going to go into the computer science field. We know that that's not for everyone, but what we want to do is give students the opportunity to make that decision. And so providing these different initiatives that we're moving forward with, we can give students that opportunity to make that decision for themselves. So thank you very much.
Dr. Farouk.
Thank you so much for your efforts, Steve. So I have a couple of questions. One is regarding your needs to be able to make all these efforts successful, whether it's hardware, whether it's staffing, what can we do to be supportive?
So I think there's always a need for more devices for students to engage in this. So if we think about our students in middle school right now, they're one-to-one. They're in a great position to be able to engage in these on a day-to-day basis. In high school and in most of our elementary schools, they're 4-to-1, so there's a device for every 4 students. So those opportunities still exist, but it's a little bit more difficult for those students to engage in that on a continual basis. But our teachers and students are amazing. They make it happen with what they have, and it's fantastic. So, and I think one thing that would be great is just advocacy, which you already have done as a board, just the continued advocacy for promoting computer science and coding in Riverside.
So I know we're doing efforts on the gender equity. Are we tracking regarding like optional programs, like after school, things like that, how the students of color are being engaged as well, at Latinos and African Americans?
Absolutely. So in our CS First pilot that we did, we didn't actually track that information. We tracked just number of students involved and the hours they were code. But moving forward with Girls Who Code, as well as with the code.org opportunity, we will be paying attention to those numbers and be able to bring back to the board some information regarding those efforts.
So currently we don't have that data, right?
We do have the data in terms, if we went and dug for the data, we could tell you in terms of current courses at the high school level, the number of females versus males enrolled, the number of students, minority students that are involved. We could pull that information for you, yes.
I'm particularly interested in seeing proportionate to our student population, how
Sure.
they're being engaged. And I just want to acknowledge that I really appreciate the fact that you guys are looking at this comprehensively on how to integrate all these different efforts. And I want to thank Renee Hill and you, Steve, in particular, for all your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rook. Thank you, Steve. And I'll remind the board that when we in this week's superintendent's report, he talked about the bandwidth and how that's beginning to really hit the edges. So how important that is when we connect it to what Steve's talking about and equity for young people. Mrs. Lock-Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Dunlap, I know you have a lot on your plate here. You're doing this, and it's fabulous, and it's wonderful. What kind of partnerships with our business community or industry are we developing for career pathways or guaranteed employment or internships within college? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I think that would actually be better addressed by Ron Weston, who's our coordinator for CTE. But I can tell you, I know that his efforts are definitely in that direction. And through the partnership or the working group that we have at the city through individuals like Bournes Incorporated and Jaguar Systems, K&N Engineering, we're definitely looking at how we can grow those partnerships. One of the things that we're doing through the CS First curriculum is actually giving students an opportunity to go and visit the Google campus out in LA in May. And some of the students who have been engaging that content for the last year will get the opportunity to be able to go out and actually talk to different engineers at Google about the work that they do and engage in that. So it's very exciting.
If I can also add to that, Mrs. Lock-Dawson, Ron Weston, coordinator of CTE, is also involved in some of the, for example, Chamber of Commerce, Board Education Partnership, and involved in other committees and groups across the city with Bournes and other programs like that to expand our connections, our opportunities for mentorships and externships and things like that as it pertains to some of our CTE programs, but knowing that a lot of our CTE programs are also STEM-based.
Yeah, I think not just CTE, but looking at college majors and four-year college, and I'm thinking about our UCR partnership might be a good place to try to get some of these kids to be, one of our goals is to get more kids going into college and career ready, kids who are interested in this stuff and they see they can get a degree in it and they can work in it. I mean, that's my first coding class. I loved.
I'd like to, just because the timing seems right, I'd like to give a little shout
Yes,
out to our
Mrs.
partnership
Hill.
with Girl Scouts also, because it addresses the gender gap. We've partnered with Girl Scouts in their Classrooms to Career program. So we have several elementary and middle schools who have groups of girls who go to, they went through the courts recently. So they've seen all sorts of things, judges, manufacturing, all kinds of things. And last year, for the first time, we sent 32 girls to a week-long cyber camp at Cal State San Bernardino that was made possible by our partnership with Girl Scouts.
Yeah, and I saw a talk by the woman who established Black Girls Who Code. I think I talked to you about this too. And she said they do a presentation for the parents at the end of one of the trainings or weeks or seminars they have for the kids. They're involved for weeks on end. But they have industry professionals come in and give a talk to the parents and the children at the same time and say, here's your career opportunities, here's what we do, and it sounds like they're doing that with the Google thing. They're going to talk to the engineers, but maybe getting your parents involved too and having them hear it so that they can encourage their children. Okay, I'm done. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next program we have coming up is on our action calendar, and it's regarding the long-range facilities plan. We have a very comprehensive report. However, we're going to take about a 10-minute break because that will be a long process. So, and if anybody's got the opposite of a Sudafed, I'll buy it from you. Thank you. No, I'm not. Nope. I'm going to... See, we praised Dr. Farouk, now he won't listen to me. Look at that. Thank you, Angelo. Well, there's a little game going on in Iowa, so let's check the score. Dr. Farouk's going to let us know the score of the Iowa. Go ahead, Dr. Farouk. I'm telling you, if there was a football game on, I'd let you know the score, so what the heck?
For those that want to know,
yeah, for you that don't worry about it.
Ted Cruz won Iowa, and Hillary Clinton is up by 0.3% and still reporting the Democratic side.
All righty, with that. Okay, I checked and saw how much we have left in here. It isn't enough for me to have a whole meeting with you. So I'm a distraction, I believe. So, and I have a great amount of confidence in what Dr. Lewis and Haley Calhoun have done with this next report. Very pleased with it, as I know the board is. Looking forward, Dr. Hansen, to, as Mrs. Allaby said, we're going to add the components of the Polly and King parcels we bought. The possibility of still can't believe it until I see it, but it's a wonderful idea of UCR, and also, as Mrs. Allaby and I have been talking about forever, what we could do with Central and RCC. So adding those two things to already a voluminous report. But I'm going to give the chair over to Mr. Lee and wish you all a good night, and I'll touch none of you. Thank you.
All righty. We'll call up Dr. Lewis. Are you coming up to talk about the long-range facility master plan, second reading and action?
Mr. Lee, Dr. Hansen, members of the board, this indeed is the an action item following our workshop on January 21st. Since then, we incorporated many of your comments, and they are reflected in the revised plan that you have before you tonight. Before we get into those details, which Haley Calhoun will present, I just wanted to help connect the dots of the facilities master plan with the potential of a local general obligation bond measure. So what this plan is, and these plans for each of our schools, they're basically a set of ideas that we collected from staff and our parents and community, so that at this point in time, this is what they see are the needs for their schools as we look forward for the next 15 to 20 years. These plans are referenced by the bond language in the exhibit that really contains the project list. The project lists are basically all the types of projects that we may consider implementing for any of our schools. So, in essence, the project list referenced in the bond language, the long-range facility master plans for each of our schools presents a wide array of projects that the board can choose to implement in the future. So think of the facilities master plans as being flexible, a living document that can be changed over time. So as the board makes decisions about vacant property adjacent to schools, we can incorporate that into those long-range facility master plans. Or if there's a change in instructional direction for a school or schools, we can also incorporate that, and that will allow boards, not only today, but boards in the future, to have that flexibility to make those plans work for the board at that point in time. So with that, I'd like to invite Haley to the podium, and she can take it from here.
Good evening, members of the board. How are you? Dr. Hansen. As you remember, we did have a wonderful work session on the 21st, and we spent several hours looking through our facility master plan and explaining all the components and parts. And we did absolutely listen to your feedback. That was reflected many things in the plans itself, as Mr. Oh, I forget. Yeah, I'm down here. As Mr. Hunt alluded to, we changed the facility master plan and added some language to the STEM so that we have that option to go to another, build in another university. We also addressed the district properties, the high school properties that are adjacent to high schools, that we have the opportunity to change those or change those plans of those school sites should we move in that direction. We tried to add that flexibility to the plans that you requested. A couple of things I just wanted to bring right to your attention is pages 10 and 11, which I know I'm not sure what board pages they are, but those are those guiding principles that we talked about. And originally, we had the 3 guiding principles of maintenance, parity, and evolution. And through our discussion at the board workshop, we talked a lot about vision, and it absolutely is important and that we needed to add that to our facility master plan. So what you will see here on the guiding principles, that 4th bullet now is vision, which becomes one of our 4 things that we look for as we're working through our plans as we move forward. We would be looking at maintenance, evolution, parity, and now vision at each of our plans as we move forward. And so we wanted to make sure that we provide a couple examples, which we did. That came from the workshop, which is School of Arts, Career Technical School, and then just expanding our opportunities for facilities and equipment that meet the 21st century learning environment. Certainly we have a lot of initiatives now, and we will continue to have initiatives as we move forward. This is intended to be a 20-year plan, so we want to have all that flexibility in our plan. So I want to make sure that you are aware that we did add that vision in there, and so that would be one of those measures that we look at as we move forward with any of our facility master plans. So with that being said, did you have any other further questions or comments after you've had a little bit of time to look through the plan?
Can I just interject if I might? Dr. Lewis, today in Executive Cabinet, you talked about some wording for if there's other projects, for example, maybe something, by RCC or other new projects. What was that wording that you had put in the plan that will open up that creativity?
And this is the document that our bond counsel, David Kaznoko, will bring to you on the 16th. And you'll see that in the project list there'll be a descriptor which says any schools or school facilities that will support changing instructional priorities or needs. And so that gives a pretty large umbrella so that if there are any changes that the instructional program envisions for the future, it can be incorporated into whether those are schools or modifying school facilities.
Thank you.
One other thing I want to make note, we did take notice that STEM, and it is now in the middle school section. I know you guys have those binders, and we will actually be reprinting the entire program of that. So we'll have a final copy, if you will, when everything is said and done and accepted.
This represents changes, though? Does this have what
the
we have?
binder that we provided you is the original draft that we went through at the workshop.
Okay.
So what's in your board packet actually will have the changes in it, but we're going to reprint the entirety of this plan for you with all the changes.
Okay.
But because it's a massive document, and I wanted to make sure we covered anything else that might come up tonight, any other comments you might have, and then we will reprint a final copy.
Because I have to be honest, I couldn't find them because there's so much in here, so I wasn't
there is so
sure.
much in there.
But thank you.
So
Then
in
I
your
will-
board packet, actually, the changes are reflected in that one.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Mrs. Allaby?
I really tried to take a long look at this facilities plan, and it took me several hours, and I'm sure I only skimmed it. There is a lot in this plan, but I'm really very satisfied with the work that's been done, and with the addition of the visionary things that we've talked about. I think that tonight we can go ahead and pass that, and I would like to make a motion that we approve the long-range facilities plan at this time.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Dr. Farouk? No? All right, we'll call for the vote.
I don't see the...
That's it. I don't think it's waiting for Ms. There we go.
Okay.
That motion passes unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of work, lots of work.
Next item is H2, 2014-2015 Annual Financial Report and Audit. Mrs. Kakish?
Yes, before you is a summary 2-page that looks like this, and I'd like to invite our auditor from Nigro, Kevin, to the podium to give you a summary of the financial audit. This was presented to the Finance Committee back in December.
Welcome.
Perfect. Yes, everyone does have their 2-page cheat sheet to the audit report. How do you turn 70 pages of fun into only 2? Well, we do our best, and we handed it out earlier tonight. I'm just going to kind of start off by giving you a little bit of an overview of the audit, and then I'm going to hit a few of the major topics in the audit report, but I'm not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, cover them page by page, just really more of the big picture highlights from it. So the audit really starts, it's two-pronged. It starts in the spring. It starts with school site visits and a visit to the district office, because there's so much more than just the financial piece of the audit. There's a compliance portion. And as we know, the main driver of revenues for any school district is going to be that attendance. Okay, so we start by going to, I think it was 16 or 17 school sites this year, to look at their attendance procedures, look at their cash collection procedures, as well as get a chance to visit those ASBs. We do know ASBs, of course, are always that low-hanging fruit for the auditor. You know, we always have observations, recommendations when it does come to those areas. And the great part about us coming out in spring is the fact that it gives the district a little bit of time to work with those sites to get things corrected before the start of the next school year. Okay. Also, during that first spring visit, we get a chance to go to the district office and look at those internal controls. Those internal controls really drive how we're going to finish the audit when the district actually closes the books. So we get an opportunity to look at the payroll, disbursement cycle, cash receipting, facilities, information technology, and a whole host of other areas. Because really, how the controls are lined up in the district is going to drive, again, those procedures. So then again, we get a chance to come back out to the district office after the district's closed its books. So we get our opportunity, I think this past year it was in the first week of October. And we do that traditional thing that you associate with the auditors, right? We get to look at the numbers. Okay. So we audit the numbers, we make sure there's no material misstatements, we finish our compliance piece of the audit as well, and it all culminates in the production of the audit report, which you have in front of you. So I'm going to briefly cover, my favorite pages. I'll start with pages 1 and 2 because they are the independent auditors on the financial statements. So we issue an independent audit opinion on those financial statements to say there were no material misstatements, there were no material breaches in regards to compliance or internal controls. So that's good. That's what they call the unmodified opinion. It's the clean opinion. It's the one you want. Sounds a little strange when you say unmodified, but it's the one. It is the one you want. After that, inside the audit report, if you're not a numbers person, you can focus on what they call management's discussion analysis. It's represented here by pages 3 through 10. So what it does is it has a lot of comparative data year over year. It gives you information on revenues, expenses, as well as assets, liabilities. It really gets to the district's core net position, and it puts a lot of verbiage behind the district's numbers. It gives you a lot of it really is that comparison possibility. So if you're not the numbers person, again, focus your time here. If you are the numbers person, well, that's why we have pages 11 through 21. So this is your opportunity to look at, on pages 11 through 12, the district, it's what they're called, their government-wide financial statements. So what these represent is it's the district's full accrual financial statements. It's the district as a business, more or less. If you want to compare yourself, how do we line up, how is our net position line up versus a for-profit company or something to that effect, you can look to these pages 11 and 12. So what it does is it takes into account all of the district's funds and it smushes them into one column. It also accounts for any long-term liabilities, GO bonds, a net pension liability, as well as those long-term assets such as your capital assets, buildings, land, equipment. Okay? And it kind of gives you your net position. After that is what they call the fund financial statements, pages 13 through 21. These look more comparable to what you might see in your interim reports or your unaudited actuals. So these ones feel more comfortable as a board member. And if you look at the bottom of the page on each of those financial statements, it says the notes to the financial statements are an integral part. And that's because these numbers, they're representative of June 30th, 2015. At this point, we're looking at 7-month-old information. So those notes at the bottom are going to describe in detail each of those balances. So where you see cash represents X number of $1 million, you can actually go to a footnote in the audit report that'll specify, well, it's in the county treasury, this is why, because of government code X, Y, and Z. So there's a lot of great information that's contained in the audit report. A few of the footnotes that are back in that section, it's pages 22 through 51, and I'm not going to call them out page by page because I would hate to keep you here all night. But there's important footnotes in regards to the CalSTRS, CalPERS pension liabilities. There's information on other post-employment benefits from GASB 45. There's information for the fund balances, and there's also information for fixed assets as well as the long-term debt. If you ever were interested in seeing the information on that, you can actually see what the district's outstanding general obligation payments are, what the representation of principal versus interest is, in case you were to get approached by someone from the community. After that, inside the audit report is supplementary information. Some of it's required by the Government Accounting Standards Board. Some of it's required by the State Controller's Office. It represents pages 52 through 66. Again, there's some good information back here which has been highlighted on your highlights reel. After that, inside the audit report are other auditors' opinions. So the pages that we actually own as an auditor inside the audit report are the ones with our letterhead on them. And pages 67 through 72 represent a few more of those opinion letters. There's one on internal controls, there's one on state compliance, and again, one on federal compliance. Again, the district received the unmodified opinion on each of those, and that's the one you wanted to get. Now, where you probably turned first when you got your audit report, right? The back of the audit report, the findings section, pages 73 through 77. Okay? Not a lot to report back here. There was one audit finding in regards to the adult ed maintenance of effort requirement. It was a one-year thing where we won't actually be auditing for it again next year. So it is noted, and the district does have an implementation plan as well, and it spelled it out pretty well and pretty detailed oriented in it. Other than that, are there any questions on the process or the report itself?
I don't see any questions. Did it?
So move.
Do you have a second? Second. Our motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All right. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next action item is H3, the approval of the Local Education Agency Plan 2015 through 2018. And I believe Mr. Garcia, is that you?
Yes, I would like to introduce Ms. Anu Menon, who's the Director of Academic English Learners and Student Support, who will give a presentation on the LEA plan that is up for your consideration for approval, and she will provide you with the context and the information for you to be able to make that decision.
So good evening, Dr. Hanson, Mr. Lee, board members. Before I begin, you have a revised copy of the LEA plan. We had to add a slide because we had some additional compliance information that was requested of us by one of our state reviewers. So that's in front of you. So this evening we bring the Local Educational Agency Plan, also known as the LEA Plan, to you for your approval. So what is the LEA Plan? This is a comprehensive plan that allows us to address the needs of the students, and it focuses on the monies that we receive in the form of Title I, Title II, Title III. And for Title I, it is for at-risk students. Title II works with professional development for teachers and administrators. And Title III supports English learners. This plan was last adopted by the board in 2010, and there was an addendum in 2013, and we are now bringing it back to you. So why do we need a new plan? We need a new plan because, number one, of course, the previous plan expired, and there are changes in 4 areas: standards, assessment, curriculum, and accountability. And so we've had to evaluate the old plan, and we've come up with some revisions for the upcoming plan, which is for 16 through 18 school years. The evaluation that we did was the program evaluation, and we looked at what was working, what wasn't, the modifications that we needed. And that helped us come up with the actions and strategies that are part of this LEA plan. This plan is actually organized as defined by the Title I legislation. And if you look at the back of your packet in your binders, you will see what this link refers to, and that is basically the template that we used to do our program evaluation. The contents of the plan are listed in order, and I'm just going to go briefly through some of those. The first one is the district profile, and the district profile gives you some basic demographic information. It also talks about our program improvement status based on No Child Left Behind. We were identified as a program improvement district in 2007. And then again in 2009, we became Program Improvement Year 3. We received some corrective action status in 2009, and that meant that we had to implement some actions. Those actions are that we adopt standards-based curriculum, standards-based assessments, and that we align our instruction accordingly, provide professional development, and we also target the needs of our at-risk students. We also, this particular section also discusses the support that the district provides to schools. The next section is the needs assessment section, and we used various state and local assessments to sum up student achievement data. We used the results from that needs assessment, and we provided some gathered feedback from stakeholders, and we used that to address the plan and to address our focus groups, low income, foster youth, and English learner kids. The local measures of performance that we looked at, some of them are listed here. We used DIBELS, we used the units of study writing assessments, we did some math assessment analysis, and we looked at some universal screeners. All of the information that we gathered through this process was used to inform the goals, the strategies, and the action steps that are part of this LEA plan. And if you look at that, it's actually focused on details in some broad areas. We looked at English language arts and mathematics, and we made sure that our information included standards-aligned information. And we also looked at the proficiency for high-priority students, meaning are we meeting interventions? Are we doing what's necessary for the kids? We looked at students with disabilities to see if teachers were collaborating with general ed teachers, and these are just a few of the items. Looked at PD for teaching and administration and how we monitor that process. And we went on to address English learners, highly qualified teachers, and so on and so forth. The last few sections of the LEA plan discusses the budget that we receive from federal and state programs, the Title I descriptions that are based on compliance, what we need to do, and then of course there's a section for assurances that we as RUSD lets the state know that we are following all of the mandatory requirements that are part of Title I. And that takes us through our LEA plan. Questions, comments?
Are there any questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, let's vote. And motion passes. Thank you very much. Item H4. Board policy number 5131.62, tobacco and nicotine products. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Vice President, Superintendent Hanson, members of the board, before you tonight are going to be two different board policies here before you for a first read. The first one tonight is related to tobacco and nicotine products. It's number 5131-62. It has not been updated for close to 20 years. There are changes that came about January the 1st. The language is in alignment with those changes and brings us into alignment with both federal, state code, as well as our education code in California. You do have the prerogative to take action tonight if you so choose to do so, and that would be my recommendation. If I'd be happy to answer any questions, Dr. McGuire is here to assist in any manner.
Any questions?
No?
Do we need a second reading, or does...
No, I even like the way you wrote the policy.
We did take into consideration advice from the last couple of times, as there'll be a lot of new policies coming forward for revision.
So move. So do we have a second?
Second.
All right, call for the vote.
The second policy that you have before you tonight is a new policy.
Do you want us to vote them together or separately?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
Go ahead.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Yep.
Next one.
The next policy before you is a new policy for the Board of Education, policy number 6173. It is the Education for Homeless Children policy. The language is self-explanatory, but it is a requirement as we move into the new school year, and any school district that has the LCAP, which is every school district, must have a policy related to serving the homeless and referencing the McKinney-Vento Act. In the future, after the passage of this policy, we'll have to take into consideration an LCAP goal to address that particular group of children as well. Again, this is a policy that you have the prerogative to take action on this evening. It's before you as a first read, and it is a requirement for us to do a new policy in relation to this area.
Thank you. We do have a question from Mrs. Alavi.
Yes, are we going to be attaching this McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act?
The reference is the McKinney-Vento Assistance Act. That's been in place for quite some time. So it's like the IDEA for special education. It's a standalone document which drives special education in California. Certainly, we have reference to it. So it's online, it's available. It wouldn't be part of the policy itself.
Well, I don't think it's also part of the purpose, because the purpose is just to have the district support the needs of the homeless youth. And unless you're going to actually put that McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act wording in here.
The district is required to follow the McKinney-Vento Act.
I understand.
That's why it's referenced.
And you can put that down as a point, it seems to me, but the purpose is whatever the act is, whatever is in the act. That would be the purpose, not.
We'll be happy to make that change. It's as long as we are referencing the McKinney-Vento Act somewhere in the document, then that would be fine. We can put it down under legal reference.
Okay. Well, that would be. I mean, I don't think that's very unless I'm running through these policies. And unless I can just look at that act right there and read it.
I'll be happy to get you a copy if you'd like to, if you have difficulty
just,
sleeping at night or something.
I'm talking about, not me. I know that I can call you and you'll get me a copy. But I'm just worried about people like parents or somebody who might look at our policy and not understand that or not want or not have
That's
access.
fine. We'll be happy to make that adjustment.
Okay.
Mrs. Lock-Dawson?
Circled too, but I mean, I was just thinking you would just add it as a footnote or something, like just, or an asterisk or something, or you could put it as a numerical thing, just that it satisfies the requirements. Just one line.
Not a problem.
I thought that would be a good thing to do, so thanks.
Okay.
So
did you want, are we okay with the way?
I'll just make a motion that for approval with that correction, that either be footnoted as Mrs. Lock-Dawson suggests, or put in the numerical.
We'll send you the change in the board mail.
All right, that sounds great.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Do we have a second? All right, let's vote. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. That second part went rather quickly. Thank you. So we'll end with board member comments. Mrs. Alavi.
Thank you. First of all, big kudos that I'd like Mrs. Kakish to send to the nutritional services for the Grow Riverside Dinner in the Kitchen Farm to Fork Dinner. I think this showcased our nutritional services department so well. I was so impressed. Everything was spotlessly clean. The food was great. The staff was great. So just please send them my kudos for that. Second of all, I will be attending on Wednesday morning, and I've been asked to attend, a meeting regarding the Harmony Project. Now remember, at the last meeting I gave Dr. Hanson the big Harmony Project package. This Harmony Project is a concept brought together by members of the community who would like to start an early education music program for low-income students. And it has worked really well in other communities. And I think, Mr. Garcia, you're coming too, I've been told, right? Okay. I do think there is a role for the school district with this. I don't know what that role might be, and I would really like to, I'm glad Mr. Garcia is going to be there, because I really think that the school district needs to be a firm partner in this. I think it's going to be a wonderful, it's an advantage to us, to our school district, to have our low-income students musically educated. And so I just wanted to tell everybody I'll be going to that, and I'll be representing us with Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mrs. Albee. Mrs. Lock-Dawson, you have anything?
I do, just a few things. One is I had a request from a couple teachers to look at our approved calendar in the month of December. That the last day of school is December 23rd on a Friday, and then Christmas Eve is the next day. And these were elementary school teachers in some of our schools that said that they will miss all of their students. All of their students will not be there on the 23rd because they will leave for Christmas or be out of there. So they were suggesting perhaps moving the day off back a little bit. So I'm just throwing that out there to the whole board. I don't, we can have a discussion, we can calendar it a little later, but it was a concern that was brought up, and it's a pretty valid concern.
Legit.
Two, I was going to ask if we could get an update on our VAPA efforts, just like we just had an update on our DLI. I know that we have some teachers that have been involved in a statewide effort that has gotten funding, that has given funding to our schools, and I know we're moving forward with developing a pretty comprehensive VAPA plan, and particularly as we move forward in this next year, as that becomes a priority, I would like to just see where we're going on that. Okay, so this one is a little bit more esoteric and something that's a little bit of a call to action I'm going to put out there. But so I'm attending a panel tomorrow that I think Dr. Hanson and Ms. Carmen Day are also going to be involved in at Poly High School, looking at what our colleges are doing to change their admissions processes. And it's a big kind of a sea change in what some of the colleges are calling for, because many of our high school students are having a lot of mental health issues and anxiety and becoming disenfranchised and all sorts of things, so they're making a call for it. So it got me thinking that in the past, I don't know, what is that, 5, 6, maybe more than that years, we've had this big focus on getting more kids into college, right, and pushing them. And we've, focused on A through G, A through G, A through G. That's a big thing that we've been pushing. And I feel it was well-intentioned, but I think it was also a very brute force method. And I think now that we're down the road a little bit, we might want to look at a little bit more nuanced and sophisticated way of supporting our children getting into colleges. Because honestly, I don't know that we've been that successful. We still only have 25% of our kids going on to four-year college, and that leaves 75% with what? Not much. So I think I would like to look at sort of what some of the things that are working or taking a little bit more strategic way. And I'm looking at things like the Heritage Program that looked at A through G and who was finishing and who wasn't, DLI is obviously a good strategy for getting kids engaged and interested in academics and scholarship. Maybe we want to do something like identify conservatories or majors within high school where kids who are interested, it's not just career technical ed paths, but it's a scholarly academic path, and the kids are expressed in their interests. Much like I think Poly High School has AP academies for different like medical sciences, computer sciences, and they've got a listing of them. And finally, I just think we need to look at what some of the things that we might be doing on campuses that are being actually getting us exactly the opposite of what we want. I think some of the things that we've done have been well-intentioned, but they end up pitting the kids against each other. It's overly competitive. We're making our kids do things that we would never ask adults to do. One of our schools was actually giving out T-shirts to kids in different colors that reflected their grade point averages, and I was not very happy about that. The kids know this. They don't like it. It might be good for the kid who's on the top of the grade point average heap, but I'm guessing the kid on the bottom didn't want to wear his or her T-shirt very much. How about doing something like giving T-shirts out based on what kids want to be? Maybe you get the green T-shirt if you want to be an engineer, a yellow T-shirt if you want to be a doctor or something. So I think just looking at what we're doing that is working and is not working. And one of the things we do is tell our kids well, we understand that you may not go into a four-year university, so it's okay if you do something else post-secondary. Like, you go to cosmetology school, you could do this, right? So we're telling them these things, but we're speaking out of both sides of our mouths because we are not valuing those paths either for children that might want those and accept those. We've got, until we celebrate some of those successes in some of those children, I think those students will not believe us as adults. We lose all credibility when we say, yes, you can do this, but we're going to just put up the pictures of all the kids who are going on to four-year colleges, and none of you will be celebrated. So I think we just need to look at some of our practices and see what's working, what's not, what's supportive, and what's actually being divisive and disenfranchising some of our kids. So I'm sorry that was quite winded. I just got to thinking about some things, so I appreciate your indulgence in listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lockdawson. Dr. Farouk.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. I just wanted to revisit a couple of items. I had mentioned at an earlier board meeting about looking into the fiber optic partnerships, that are options. I saw in the board mail-out that we were dealing with some capacity issues with our bandwidth, that it's exceeded its peak at certain points. It's my understanding that we did have a meeting with the Riverside Public Utilities, but I never saw a report back on that, so I just wanted to touch base on it. If there are any challenges timing-wise with tapping into the dark fiber from the city public utilities for our district, I would like us to explore the possibility of utilizing the university of, I don't know if it's a state network, but I know UC Riverside, my boss over there, Vice Chancellor Michael Pisani, he's very instrumentally involved in that. It's really extensive. I think we might be able to potentially tap into that as well as an alternative if there's any challenges with the city. But either way, I'd like to be a resource and help support that effort. And lastly, in the December meeting, I had mentioned about the importance of looking at a joint city council meeting on an annual basis. I want to commend the efforts about partnering with the Parks and Recreation that we did with the city regarding extending the satellite offices for the Family Resource Center as an example. But we should be looking at other options where we have shared constituencies and where we can work more effectively together on what kinds of areas of interest there could be. So I appreciate those updates in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farouk. I just have a couple things. One in reference to the student from Ramona High School he mentioned, which is what we want to hear. We want some feedback on what's working well and what's not working well. And as a district and as a board member that prides ourselves on equity and access, I'm bummed to hear that he wanted to take AP Physics, and because he goes to Ramona, he can't take AP Physics. So I think we got to find a solution to that. And whether it's trying to coordinate his schedule and looking at another campus, and I don't think remotely is going to work. I think he's going to have to be there, or she's going to have to be there. And especially, I just think that's something we got to address. So I'd be interested to figure out what other districts are doing that, and not just for AP classes, but for music or computer science or whatever the case may be. In regards to the DLI presentation, again, thank you for those who worked on that and to that committee. I had asked a question about how we were getting the word out for recruiting, and I'm pleased to hear all the different avenues that we're taking. But how are we reaching the parent who does not have a child that's already at RUSD, who's not in RUSD preschool, who's not attending the Parent Resource Center? I think there's so many great things, and I was talking to Mr. Martin about this at the break, there's so many great things happening in this district that we don't know about, and there should be a system or a plan in place on communicating all the things that are happening at our schools and somehow getting that information out to the public. We can't count on someone going to our website to get information. It's not going to happen. And we can't count on auto dialers, because if we don't have them in our system yet, they're not getting a phone call. So I would like to find out what we can do to better get our information out so that everybody's on the same page. And I'll even poke fun at myself. I'm a board member, and I should know, transfer dates and when openings are. And it's time for me to register my son for school next year, and that transfer window for the dual language immersion program is open. And I happened upon it going to Castleview's website when I was looking for information. And so shame on me for not knowing better, but we can't expect the same of our parents who are not yet in the system to find that information on our website. So especially if we're looking to expand the program and limit attrition, we need to recruit as many kids as possible to this program, and that goes for STEM as well and all of our other special schools and just school in general. We got to get that information out there. But I do appreciate the avenues that we are taking. And then also in regards to that same presentation, just a challenge. I know our HR staff is up to it, but really thinking outside the box on how do we find those B-clad teachers and not going to the same avenues to recruit. Because I think that's going to determine the success, is who is leading those programs. You can have engaged parents and engaged students, but if you don't have leaders who are engaged as well and excited about the program, then I think the success will plateau. And my last question was, I had a conversation with Councilman Melendrez, and maybe he reached out to some of you too, regarding the North High School track stadium. And I wasn't on the board at the time that was completed, but there was an agreement, I guess, some funds from the city, developer funds or some kind of funds, that to the tune of $200,000 that was contributed so that the Parks and Rec track team or the city's track team could utilize that field. And I don't know if it was due to logistics or just the city forgot about it or whatnot, but I guess there's some students now who I believe are either RUSD or Alvord students who want to use that facility and not part of North's track team. So I just want to make sure somebody from staff reaches out to him if they haven't already, and honor that original agreement that we made with him to make sure that those kids can use it, and as long as we're protected from an insurance point of view and all of that stuff. So that's it from me, and I think that brings a conclusion to our meeting, and I don't have a list to close in honor of anybody today, but why don't we, since it's Black History Month, why don't we close in honor of all those African American leaders who passed away, and with that we'll conclude our meeting. Thank you.